All right, welcome back to our video series on Salesforce technical debt. We have covered examples and definition and sources in part one. We went over a technique for creating a grid of technical debt arranged by program area and classified or categorized by how many people it impacts. And this is something you can keep going and update all the time. Maybe once a quarter, you have personal process to update it. And now we are on a section called When to Work on Technical Debt. And this is a fairly short section, but it contains a very powerful idea that I want you to wrap your head around. So we have our technical debt pile. And first of all, I would suggest never work on technical debt that's not in your pile. So if you want to work on it, put it in your inventory. Now, just because it's in your inventory doesn't mean that your maintenance tasks and your development tasks and your enhancement tasks and your hotfix tasks and your data entry tasks and all of that stuff, they don't stop. So when do you ever get to work on your technical debt? And in many organizations, they decide to hire an outside agency to work on the technical debt, and that's fine, I suppose. But it's outside the reach of a lot of organizations. So I have a practical approach for when to work on it, and I think it works for big or small. So here goes. First of all, you have to work on your technical debt inventory 3 times a year when Salesforce does release notes. You just have to. And if you use NPSP, every time they do releases, you have to work on your inventory. If you don't, at least add a note like I had that says, hey, I haven't worked on it since a certain date, so that you can go back and look at the release notes. It's every 2 weeks. And if you're using the PMM, you have to do that. If you have other underlying code, every time those releases are done, you have to look at your technical debt and see if it just grew. All right, but besides that, when should you work on it? And the answer is really simple, but startling. You work on the technical debt anytime you're asked to do an enhancement in a program area. And this is super important because it gives you an access point for deciding, hey, I'm going to work on that because they want me to enhance the very same area. So let's say you have development cultivation team that comes to you and they want changes to the database for the stages of how they do cultivation and some reporting and some page views. And you start listing out the user stories that they want and the user experiences they want. You agree to what's going to be done. You're trying to figure out how long it's going to take. But back in your office privately, you go to your Trello list and you look to see, what do I have under the donor cultivation? What do I have that needs to be done? And in my donor cultivation list, I have noted that we have a process for sending quarterly update to people who sign up, but we don't get them anything when they sign up right away. We don't have some type of drip list that comes out that says, okay, here, thanks for signing up to the donor list. You'll be getting information quarterly, but here's something to acknowledge that you did that, and here's some information to chew on for now. Whether we would be exposing our last quarterly update letter to new subscribers or whether we have a drip campaign, we haven't decided that, but we have nothing to help them with that. And so if they're asking me to work on cultivation, I would want to work on that at the same time because it's something that's affecting outside people, giving them a bad experience. And here I have people asking me to allocate time to work on a better experience for donor cultivation. And so that's when I would fix it, is when they're asking me to work on it. And it would sit there and not do anything until I need to work on donor cultivation, but I wouldn't leave the work pile of donor cultivation without doing something about my old stuff. And maybe there's old stuff that I don't do, but I look at it. Anytime it affects external people, I really think you ought to do it. You're trying to create a good experience. It's affecting someone external. You have the opportunity to work in this area, so do it. Another example would be anytime it interferes with your good discipline and your weekly or daily personal software processes. If you have a problem that is such a nightmare that you can't do good documentation of the work that you're developing, or you can't do good maintenance on a regular basis, it's time to take care of that. So maybe I spent the last 5 minutes saying nothing, or maybe I just said something really strategic, that we work on technical debt in order of the other activity in our database. So if we have other CRM activity, we take care of the worst offending CRM technical debt at the same time. The program took a little bit longer, maybe as a result. The cost went up a little bit higher, maybe, but no one's ever going to authorize you to work on the old CRM debt unless it's part of a project. And so I'm just saying, tax every project that comes through your office with a little bit of the technical debt cleanup in the same area. I think your users will be delighted. I think your external constituents will be so happy with the experience they get because you're keeping on top of things and keeping clean. A more simple area, they ask you to work on program management, and you have in your technical debt, I haven't read any of the features about the program management module that came out from NPSP starting last year. Now is the time to dedicate on their nickel time to read those features and understand them and decide what to do about it. Fictitious example, in my organization, we don't use recurring donations, but let's say the development team comes to me and says, it's taking way too long to enter recurring donations. We want it to be automatic somehow. Now would be the time for me to clear my technical debt of not enabling those recurring donations and not setting that up in the gift entry template and take care of that. Even if it wasn't absolutely required to do what they want, it's the right time to do it. So that's really what I have to say on that topic. Not long, but I hope really important. Add to your technical debt document and work on it every Salesforce release, every NPSP release. Anytime technical debt is interfering with your good personal software process, it's time to work on it. And finally, when enhancements are requested, it's time to clear the deck of the most urgent technical debt in that same program area. You can't cover everything, but you can cover the technical debt in that same area. All right, so we've learned when to do it. Next up, we're gonna take an excursion and look at how Flow can help you with your technical debt. This will have a real example in it. All right, bye.